Welcome back to Rich Words Music, where today we're looking at this. It's the NUX Ace of Tone dual overdrive pedal. And what the Ace of Tone is effectively two of NUX's individual overdrive circuits put into one box, one enclosure. Now this is something of a cool thing for pedal companies to do these days. There's plenty of dual overdrive pedals out there on the market, and the Ace of Tone is just one of them to be released this year. Now it was released to something of kind of a low fanfare pretty much. There wasn't a lot going on online. There's not many of these to be found in stores that I've seen. But I heard a couple of clips on YouTube and they sounded fantastic. So I reached out to the people I know at NUX and they sent me this Ace of Tone to do a video with. So I didn't buy the pedal myself, just so you guys know, but I'm not being paid to make the video, and NUX of course aren't telling me what to say either. So now that we know that, we can carry on with the rest of the video. So the Ace of Tone then has two of NUX's traditional overdrive circuits in one box. On this side here, we have their Morning Star, which is their take on the Bluesbreaker, which is a low gain, sort of transparent overdrive pedal. And on this side, we have the Mark II of NUX's Tube Man pedal, which is their version of an Ibanez Tube Screamer, but with some mods too, and we've got a few extras on the Ace of Tone as well. So on the Morning Star side, the Bluesbreaker side, we have a level control, a tone, and a drive control, and we also have a shine mode. So you press the switch here to activate that side of the pedal, and you hold it down for about a second to activate the shine mode, which gives you an extra sparkling top end to your tone. So Bluesbreaker pedals are kind of often known as being a little bit dark, a little bit kind of mellow. So if you want to brighten it up, you use the shine mode to get way more top end into your tone. Now on the Tube Man Mark II side here, we've got again the level, tone, and drive controls. Switch it on and off with this, but you hold this one down for a second and you engage the fat mode. What a Tube Screamer pedal often does is give you a massive mid hump in your tone, but it cuts out a lot of your bottom end too. So the fat mode on the Tube Man Mark II circuit gives you a boost in low end too. So that's giving you much more options to your tone. So what we've got here then is a Bluesbreaker and a Tube Screamer with extra modes on each side. You can use this switch here to choose how you stack them. Now when you stack them, that means having both running at the same time, and that means that one pedal is always running into the other. So you can either run the Bluesbreaker side into the Tube Screamer side, or the Tube Screamer side into the Bluesbreaker side, just like that. Just looking at the top of the pedal there, we have a couple more options too. We have a couple of mini switches here. One is for true bypass or buffered bypass modes, if that is your thing, and this one here toggles between 9 and 18 volt modes. Now you just plug this pedal into a standard 9 volt pedal supply, that's all you need to do, but you can flick it up to 18 volt mode, which should give you a bit more dynamic headroom. That's what NUX say anyway. So this is the NUX Ace of Tone pedal, and what we're going to do now is play it. It's got many options, but does it sound good? That's what we're going to answer now. So I'm going to play a bunch of different riffs, as I always do on my channel, in different styles. We'll be running the Ace of Tone into my Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200 head on the Amps Clean channel, and I'm going to use my Fender Telecaster for some single coil sounds and my Epiphone Les Paul for some humbucking tones too, just so we can hear the variety of the pedal. We'll start by playing on the Morning Star Bluesbreaker side of the pedal, then we'll move across and play the Tube Man Tube Screamer side of the pedal, and after that we'll hear some of the stacked sounds with both sides active together. Once that's done, I'll play a couple of loops, one on the Telly, one on the Les Paul, where a riff repeats over and over, and I'll really just twist the pedal's knobs to its extremes to hear what tones we can get. Enough talk then, this is the NUX Ace of Tone. Let's play it now and we'll speak in more detail about it afterwards. Okay then, so that was the NUX Ace of Tone dual overdrive pedal, and I hope you enjoyed the playing and the tones. And there were certainly a lot of tones to get through, because with the two sides of the pedal, the option to stack and blend them together, and the single coil and humbucker guitars that I used, there's certainly a bunch of different overdrive flavors that you can get with this pedal. Pretty much any kind that you're looking for is in this box if you're willing to tweak it a bit. Now, I was very impressed straight away when I turned on the Morning Star Bluesbreaker side. I like that kind of overdrive very much. It's a lower gain to medium gain, it's more transparent, so it doesn't alter the character of your guitar signal too much. I play my Wampler Pantheon very often, and that's a pedal that sounds very similar to the Morning Star side. I did notice that when the drive was down below 12 o'clock that it was a little bit darker than I personally like, but that was just a case then of holding down the switch, engaging the shine mode, and getting some more top end into my signal, and even the humbuckers were bright enough for me after I did that. So I really enjoyed that side of the pedal, even with the gain up to 3/4 all the way to full. It was kind of a little bit less controlled then, a little bit less transparent too, but you know what you're going to get with the Bluesbreaker style pedal, and I really enjoyed this side. The more interesting side for me was the Tube Man MKII, because this is NUX's take on a tube screamer, and they kind of call it a hot rodded tube screamer. When I use tube screamers personally, and I've got an Ibanez Mini, that's the one that I sometimes have on my board, I'll generally just use it as a bit of a boost. So I'll have the volume all the way up to full, I'll have the gain all the way down, and I'll tweak the tone to taste. But that wasn't really an option with this pedal, because even with the gain all the way down, it was clearly giving me much more gain than my Ibanez Tube Screamer Mini would. This is a hot-rodded tube screamer circuit after all. And you can notice with the pushed clean tones that I was going for with the humbuckers, we were already in pretty much mid-gain overdrive. So if you just want kind of a clean tube screamer type boost with this pedal, you're probably not going to get it. I did find though that I had to kind of experiment and just get different levels of gain with the tube screamer that I've never really had before, and I quite like it. It's much more versatile than I'd ever really given that pedal credit for. I do have to say though that I really had to tweak the tone knob a lot to taste to get that to work for me, and I quite often had the tone all the way up, which is possibly not how it's intended to be used most of the time, but for me that gave me some really good tones for sort of classic rock and some indie, the kind of music that I generally play more than anything else. So I really enjoyed both sides of the pedal individually. I thought they covered a wide variety of musical styles very well. There wasn't really a tone that I couldn't find. Personally, I'd always be using the Bluesbreaker side more than the Tube Screamer side, but that's just my personal taste, and you do have the option here depending on what you prefer. And then we came to the stacking part, where we were operating both together and blending them in with one another, and that opened up a whole new world of medium to high gain overdrive. And again, I was starting to see why people really like these dual overdrive pedals. Now again, it's kind of a taste of really tweaking them and blending them to see what works for you. I found, for example, that it was always better for me to have the Tube Screamer side running into the Bluesbreaker side. When I flipped it over and had the Bluesbreaker running into the Tube Screamer, it just didn't work for me. It just didn't sound good. But of course, tone is totally subjective. What you like is probably different to what I like. It's totally in the ear of the beholder. So if you're going to have a pedal like this, just experiment, see what you can find. But I found that with judicious tweaking of these, I could get very decent hard rock tones, and you could play pretty much anything up to metal. Now, I wouldn't say that the Ace of Tone chugs. It doesn't really do the drop D stuff as well as something like my Rev G3 does, but that's a pedal dedicated to playing metal. You could probably boost the Ace of Tone more or play it into a dirty amp and get more metal type results, but if you're after tight metal tones, you'll be after a different kind of overdrive or distortion pedal for those needs, I think. So just to talk a little bit about the advantages of a dual overdrive pedal over a single overdrive pedal or two overdrive pedals then. Well, you get two sounds in one box, and that's really cool for a number of reasons. Firstly, you probably save a little bit of pedal board space. You know, you don't have two separate pedals with wires between them. You save on two patch cables too. You also save on power, because if you're running a pedal board and you've got limited numbers of power supplies there, you only need to use one here. And what you can also do with a single dual overdrive pedal is often change the order of them. So either have one side running into the other, or have the other side running into the other side. That's something you can of course do with individual pedals, but you physically have to swap them over if you want to change them round that way. So that's another definite advantage of dual overdrive pedals. Now there's a couple of things that I don't quite like so much about the Ace of Tone, so we're going to run through those now. And the first one might be crucial to you if you play live music, or if you'd be looking to record with this pedal and wanting to change the pedal or turn it on or off and on again during a take. Now what I noticed during playing, and especially during my loops, was that when you activate one of the sides of the pedal, you actually have a delay of about, I don't know, a quarter of a second until the pedal is activated, and you also get a drop in signal. And this is not just something that I've noticed, it's on other reviews of this pedal out there. I'll link another one that I watched the other day if you want to hear someone else talk about that as well, possibly with a bit more knowledge than me. But basically, because this is a special sort of digital switching system with extra functionality in it, it just doesn't do it as quickly as an all analog switch would. So if you're going from, say, a clean verse to a distorted chorus and you switch this pedal on, you're not going to have it come on at the very second that you tap the switch. It does have a slight delay to it. I think in the chaos of playing live, that's something you probably wouldn't notice, and I'm pretty sure the crowd wouldn't notice, but it would be something that would be in my head. So this is a pedal that, despite sounding amazing on pretty much all the settings, I wouldn't want to use live if I was going to be changing tones a lot with it during songs. Now, if I was playing a song, as I often do, that doesn't really change tone that much, or if I wanted to have the Bluesbreaker style low gain overdrive on consistently throughout the song, no problems at all. But if I'm going to be tap dancing on it a lot, there would be other pedals that I would choose over this one, because they have a more instantaneous response when you tap the foot switch to engage them. So that's the thing I think you should really look at when considering this pedal. If it's going to be a problem for you, you're going to probably have to look elsewhere. It would also be the same thing when recording. I mean, if you're recording, you're probably not going to be going through a whole song and switching the pedal on halfway through it. You'd probably do different takes. But again, it's something you would have to take into account if you were thinking about using this pedal. So another thing that I noticed that I didn't like that much is the fact that the switches on the top, despite their promise, didn't really seem to do anything. I didn't put it in the video because it wasn't really worth showing, because there was no change in tone, but when I flicked between true bypass and buffered bypass, no difference. And when I pulled out the power as well, I was always hearing it, so the buffered bypass didn't seem to be doing anything there. And again, when I flicked between 9 and 18 volt mode on the pedal, I didn't get any difference in perceptible tone that I could hear whatsoever. So I was slightly disappointed about those bits on the top of the pedal as well. And the other thing that I'd want to mention again that I personally don't like that much, although this is purely a taste thing, is the fact that the Tube Man Tube Screamer side of the pedal starts with much more gain than I would personally want. Now, if I'm after a Tube Screamer type tone myself, normally I tend to have it as a cleanish sort of a boost. You can't get that with this because there's already too much gain on tap. So that's something that if you're in the same ballpark as me there and you just want a cleanish boost from a Tube Screamer side, you might want to consider trying this one first and seeing if it works for you, or if you need to find another solution. And so all that said and done, I'm definitely a convert to this dual style of overdrive pedal. I really have enjoyed playing the Ace of Tone and getting the different varieties of overdrive from it. It's been really fun and a real eye-opener for me, especially learning how to use a Tube Screamer slightly differently. Now, there's loads of competition out there when it comes to dual overdrive pedals. There's a bunch of different ones depending on what flavor or how heavy you want your overdrive to be. There's even some that do the Bluesbreaker and the Tube Screamer. Now, the most famous of those would be the JHS Double Barrel, which has their Morning Glory Bluesbreaker sort of pedal and their Moonshine Tube Screamer pedal. That costs about 3.5 times as much as the Ace of Tone, which costs around €100, dollars or pounds at time of filming. And I think that the JHS pedal probably offers slightly less gain when it comes to the Tube Screamer side, the Moonshine, and I already know that their Morning Glory Bluesbreaker is a fantastic pedal. So I'm looking forward to trying that one out when I can, although whether or not I'd want to spring 3 or 4 times the price for a similar pedal, I'm not sure yet. It's something I'd have to try out. There's a couple more pedals that do this Bluesbreaker tube screamer thing though. There's the Kingtone Duelist, which is a more boutique pedal which many top guitar players seem to have been hyped up about over the past year or so on Instagram, so check that one out if you're interested in dropping the coolest name for this style of pedal. And there's also the Mojo Hand Odessa, which does that thing too. But in terms of dual overdrive pedals, the world's your oyster really. If you don't want a tube screamer on this side, if you want something else, there's so many options. If you want two Bluesbreakers, there's many options for that too. And of course, the most famous of all the dual overdrive pedals is the Analog Man King of Tone. Again, 4 or 5 times the price of this, made to very limited numbers and very slowly. It takes about 3 or 4 years to get one if you get on the waiting list in the USA, but they offer 2 Bluesbreaker sides. You can choose between low or high gain sides as well, but that's the pedal to go for if you want a dual overdrive pedal. There's so many more though, so just think about what you would like in terms of the tones that you prefer. Do you want a Bluesbreaker and a Nobels ODR1 overdrive, for example? If you want that, there's the Brown Amplification Protein. If you want other options, they're all out there, so just research around a bit. If you want to go digital too, you can do that. There's companies like Strymon who have a couple of digital dual overdrives. They have the Sunset and the Riverside. And if you want to get cheaper and have kind of clones of the more accepted classic pedals, there are offerings from the likes of Joyo, who do the King of Kings, which is a King of Tone type pedal, and of course the NUX falls into that more affordable end of the spectrum. So I hope you've enjoyed my rather long rundown of the NUX Ace of Tone then. It was a long video, yes, but that's because there were so many tones to get through. This pedal can do so much when it comes to drive sounds. You've got the transparent Bluesbreaker there, you've got the mid-hump and the fat pushed tube screamer on the other side, and you've got the blend of them both together, which gives you in total pretty much any overdrive tone that you could want to possibly try and achieve. Now, I have to say that for this price, I think that this pedal is great value for money. The one sticking point, of course, is that switching thing. If it's an issue for you to have it not completely instantaneous when you press the foot switch, if it's a thing for you to have the little bit of drop off of sound, if that's going to be a problem, you would need to look elsewhere. But if that's not a problem, I would thoroughly recommend the NUX Ace of Tone. It does a load of great sounds, it gives you many different options, it saves you space on your pedal board, and it just sounds really good. So check one out if you can. Stick around with the Rich Words Music channel too. If you've not subscribed yet and you're still watching, drop me a subscription as well, please, because that really helps. And I do many other similar videos to this one as well. I do a lot with pedals, I do a lot with guitars, I do stuff with amps, and I often speak to cool people in the musical instruments industry too. But that's been it for today's video. I've been Rich for Rich Words Music, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.